Hundreds of decisions go into making a laptop, from design to prototyping to sound tuning and audience development. We got the exclusive glimpse at how MSI makes laptops from beginning to end.
I'm scared to walk in here by myself because they actually lock this. There's only 10 people who can be in this room.
We're here at MSI's headquarters in Taipei, Taiwan, where we got an exclusive look at how the company makes laptops from beginning to end. MSI is unique in the laptop space because it owns the entire process, from design to manufacturing and even the RMA process. At the headquarters, where hundreds of people work on the laptop team, we were met by Cliff Chun, Director of Product Managers, who walked us through key parts of the process of how you make a laptop. And it all starts with audience development.
The more our employees or our PMs, RDs play games, they know what kind of features or benefits that actually makes it better. And that's actually gives them the incentive to make the product better and then through the experience. So they used to try a lot of like prototype products in here and let's test it out and see what is better and stuff like that.
I guess you had to actually get gamers to find out what gamers even wanted in a gaming laptop, right?
He was actually one of the pro gamers also.
Before, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, when they pick up a laptop and they see a logo from a partner, SteelSeries or any other one, like sometimes they think it's just simply you're licensing it.
No,
you're really getting input from the maker.
Yeah, definitely. So for example, like the two major like name brand on top of MSI laptop is SteelSeries. So as Mark say, we actually do work closely with them. They actually comes out with their prototype, what kind of keys, we test drive it, and then we pick which ones fit best for each of the different series. Right. And then they also help us to fine tune not only the hardware but also software. The other name brand that exists in this Dyna Audios. They actually flew engineers from Europe into Taiwan in a soundproof rooms to fine tune it to see how to make the speakers better.
Like how the hell do you know what gamers are going to want or what people are going to want for materials? That's a hard
one.
Well,
some of it is a trial and error, but we do a lot of studies with end users. Like we do have a lot of we have a huge end user group throughout our our old previous customer space. Usually when they register, if they do the survey, then we'll give them extra 3 months warranty. And a lot of those customers willing to give us a lot of feedback. And those are our true customer base. That's our fanboy. They actually give us true stuff, and then that's where it helps us to develop.
After taking in feedback, the team starts the design process.
So the wish list comes from the sales and the product management, and then they are the one that will figure out like what kind of design looks cool first.
We will do some sketch about our inspiration or just creating. After the 3D drawing, we will make the prototypes immediately from the machine center.
It would be really cool to do like an amazing looking laptop with all kinds of things piled on it, but then does it become a limitation because then you have to also then consider the cooling and then...
You will actually have to go work with like the cooling team, how much space they need, what kind of air vent need to be done, and then also I should say the plugs. For example, in the beginning, Mark's team will have ideas okay, for the G Raider, we definitely want the 4K screen, we want the mini LED screen, we want the OLED screen, but also in the full HD screen. Right. So those are all the requirements, and then they have to look at okay, so for the A and B side, how much space they have to play with to put it all there with the wires and everything. And then when it got up to this point, we're talking about, okay, the hinge was an issue back in the day for our previous use model. So that's why we want to change the hinge to be a stronger hinge. So that's why you see the hinge covered more than just different stuff. So that's where it comes into here. And then basically this is to the point that it is functional. But nobody is going to buy a functional $2,000 laptop. They want something stylish. So that's when all the style or the color or the lighting and all the even the emblem, what kind of emblem we want to do it. Do we want to just do a printing or do we want to just do a see-through? So kind of like our cyborg. That's where it's all these features and little bits and pieces and styles. And that's where her team comes in and actually help us to make it look nice.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing people who don't understand products are a negotiation, right? You have
Yeah.
different teams with different expertise.
The ID team and the product team and the sales and marketing teams, like, we meet often, every single steps, and then the PM is basically is like, okay, maybe this specs I can give up, I guess compromise, but no, this other ones is out. We need to hold our ground, and that's where sometimes it go backward,
Right.
because of certain stuff. I mean, this one we're showing you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it could be like a 1, 2, 3, and then going back in the number 4, re-scratch it, and then we go from there again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of interested in why some of the design changes were made.
Even like the bottom, like as you can see in the scratch in here, we have the icon dragon scale bottom. We actually do quite a bit of different designs. This also have to co-work with our different teams on like cooling, how much vent we need space, how much stuff we have to cover. This one, it doesn't raise up, but while in here, we're able to raise it up a little bit so that it will have more airflow, that kind of stuff.
And the venting was increased for that too.
Yeah.
Looking at this earlier prototype, there was no front LED, and then
Start to have
you
it.
start to have the LEDs.
Yeah, but we haven't figured out what kind of like LEDs and stuff. And at this one is where it goes into the very milky, silky style, which is the last generation one.
This looks like in a lot of ways the same, but this is a lot more eye-catching. This
Exactly,
the final
because
color.
that
than
was
this.
that was during the age, like I remember this is what 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and at that point of time, everybody's kind of slowly transformed from black and red into more dark gray.
Right.
So at that point of time, we don't want to build another Me Too. We want something different. So that's why we were studying, the green initially, but it was a little bit too aggressive or a little too new.
Too risky.
Too risky in the market. But then like once we actually found quite a bit of different grayscales, as we say, like we do have a lot of like those samples tests. And the last one that comes out in this one, everybody loved it in the office. And that's why at the end we do the titanium blue.
Yeah, and it was aluminum. The A-lids are aluminum, right?
Yes.
On this.
At the end, yes. In the beginning, we were still debating because if we want to do different colors, plastic is much easier.
Right.
Any different color of aluminum is much more headache. And then out of every different series, we'll figure out, do we want it to be paintable or iodized or sandblast, really depending on what kind of series it is, because each series is going to different, customer base.
Why did you have to go to aluminum instead of plastic?
One of the reasons why we go to the aluminum is because we have to make it thinner. At that time, I still remember you reviewed our old GE60, and one of the things is like it's just very thick. So that's why we were trying to squeeze as much thickness, and plastic have to be thicker than aluminum. The unit have to be holding like together.
Right.
It have to be strong enough to hold everything together, and that's why we have to go to the aluminum instead of plastic.
And that even influences the textures too. That's crazy.
From beginning to the end is roughly about
3 to 4 months.
Yeah, 3 to 4 months, which is really quick. And one of the reasons why we're able to do that is, as you say, we do have the CNC downstairs. We also have 3D printers downstairs. So, for example, today before lunch, you have an idea, we can pretty much push the buttons, and by the end of the day, we can take a look at the prototype, and then we can discuss it tomorrow.
Despite actively working on prototype projects, we were able to briefly access the CNC room.
So the CNC is not only for the prototype chassis, but we also do it for like certain little small parts inside as well. This is a couple of stuff that we just cut for all the future stuff here, right? Like we need to figure out like which keyboard to use and then where the placement. So this is where we cut every single pieces out. When upstairs the ID team comes, like send them the files, then they will send it to this machine, and then they're basically cutting it as we speak in here.
Oh, wow.
So this one is the C side. Like on the laptop, we call it ABCD.
Right.
This is where the keyboard side is at. And then this is the bottom. This is all plastic. And on the other side is where the metal.
You start with the plastic as part of the prototyping?
No. Different units.
Oh, got it.
So for example, Katana and Sword, they're also plastic.
So like a competitor,
They would not have something like this. They would basically send the design to like a third party. Usually our competitions, they need roughly at least a year and a half to come out a product. For us, we are able to do most of our series every 6 months.
one of the most important factors in laptop design is thermal performance. For this, we were shown one of the many on-site labs.
One of the number one stuff that people really care about gaming laptop is the performance. And the ultimate things that control the performance is thermal. You are the tester, you know, once the unit is overheated, it doesn't matter if it's like the same graphic card, same CPU, you will have a performance drop. So this part is basically testing out the fans, like, you know, the performance, the efficiencies, and then like how much airflow. And then this is how we're able to maybe fine tune a little bit to see if we move the leaves off a little bit or space it out a little bit more, that kind of stuff as well.
Right, so you have to test each fan, or you can make tweaks, and this is based on actual airflows of the actual fan.
So this is the infrared. Initially, they will use this to see where is every single spot, so that it can go backward to know exactly where we put all the couplings at.
Because infrared is not reliable for actually measuring
but
it,
but then at least you'll know which area is hotter, which area is cooler. This is a temperature chamber. We actually use physical touch thermal testing to see exactly where the hot spot is at on every single unit. And not only the exterior, but also each of the component inside as well. This is simulation.
Oh, right.
So,
math.
So with this data, then we know exactly where like the airflow in and out. This is how we use this to fine tune and tweak across every different prototype.
Right, and that's of course before it's even.
Yeah, so like in maybe like step 4, step 5, step 6, like everyone goes through here to come back and see how we can fine tune it. Maybe we, on the bottom, we add a little bit more airflow in certain areas. It might like cooler the very hot spot, or how we can move the airflow into the other area so that it will get it cooler.
Thermals aren't the only factor in laptop design. Sound also matters. For that, MSI showed us their anechoic chamber where laptops are tuned.
This is the acoustic camera. So as you can see, there's a camera in the middle that actually can simulate and see where the sound is moving. There's a fan noise, there's acoustic noise, there's a lot of even electricity noise and stuff like that that we'll be using in here to fine tune and fix some of that stuff. This also help us on the ID design team where the screw is actually placement at, so that to avoid.
Sometimes we need to put a sponge, something like
this.
Yeah,
maybe we need to add like a little sponge or add another like a washer. Just so that how to make the overall chassis don't vibrate.
It also goes back to the engineering side, because you may want to turn the fans down or turn them up.
Well, engineers always want to fan up.
Yeah, they always do.
Because that will be more performance. Everyone else want to fan down because they don't want it to be having a fire jet next to them.
Right. So
that's where everyone's fighting all the day, all the time. So this is right where the normal microphone is catching, which is simulating where the human face will be at. And then this is how we fine-tune Nahimic to make it so that you will be able to catch more like a higher frequency in the lower bass, but in the same time, it's like right where it's the best for gamers. So the bass sections have to be very clear. It's not very muffly, and then the higher frequencies you don't want like it up to a point that it's louder in that area, and then everything in the mid-range stuff have to be very clear together. So as I say, like, you know, the middle range stuff, you want it to be a very smooth line because that's where you hear most of those frequencies.
Right.
Because this is frequency, and then this is the dB, the loudness. And then the bass, as you can see, we have a higher bass than, you know, our competitors. And then in the middle, they have a certain range that is not really, dropping off. And then also in the higher range, it's very up and down.
Obviously, there are hundreds more decisions that go into designing a laptop. But once the process is finalized, it's ready for manufacturing. MSI's factory is in a separate location, so unfortunately, we weren't able to visit it. But the team did give us a rundown of some of the next steps.
Starting from a empty PCB board, putting in all the components, and then put it all together with the panels and the chassis together, then pack up is roughly around 3 hours. A big chunk of it is definitely built by machines. The number one is because it's a very clean process. For example, putting in stuff on the motherboard, the machines will go much faster and stuff, and it will less likely to have error. But there is still another chunk of it that is going to be built by human hands, which is like after it goes through the motherboards, once it comes out, when we put everything in together, for example, put it into the chassis, that kind of stuff, a big chunk of those is using like, manual work. Every single unit get a simple test, which basically we run through. We do have a software to run through all the checklists, and then it will goes into the burn-in mode to make sure that all the panels is good. And then also in the beginning, every single batch, we will do a lot of different full tests. We'll pull a unit out to do hinge tests. We have a specific machines that test every single key, basically full day, that kind of testing. We also have other units that's testing like audio, and then another one that's testing like drop test, that kind of stuff.
No company wishes for problems, but if there is, MSI's approach to RMAs is somewhat unique.
MSI service centers, please turn to the right.
So this is where somebody brings something in if they have a problem?
Yeah, exactly. In here, we do have showcases room in here that people can take a look at not only our laptop, but all of our other components, telling them like what kind of stuff in here while they're waiting. There's also experience places that we co-work with other partners. Here, they will be able to check in, and if they already have had some issues before, then we will have the record already. But if not, they can still bring it in, and then they can do some diagnostics. And then in here, you can see that we're actually fixing the unit as we speak. And this is all MSI employees that like fixing all the products in here. So you can see we actually do the full testing. We basically have the exact same bench in LA office as well. Everything, all the process, all the testing SOPs is unified across the world. We do have 26 locations all over the world.
Why is it important for you to do it rather than an outside?
Well, let me put it this way. End users is already not happy on the first RMA. And if we put it and to let someone else to do it without quality assurance, there could be a second RMA and third RMA.
A lot of companies might just have a third-party repair
Exactly.
company,
And
you'd
then-
rather do it yourself.
Yeah, like it's a lot more investment, it's a lot more higher cost. But for us, it's the point to have a better customer satisfaction, and then also for us, it's better customer retention.
Like if they have to send it back a second and third time,
Yeah.
then they're never going to buy your product
Then
again, right?
it's gone. Like we
Yeah.
already lost the customers, and that's the number one thing about RMA. Yeah, and also like we're able to do it very quickly. Like especially if you bring it in with appointment, we should be able to do it within hours for you. In America, basically from it gets into our facilities, getting out of it is within 24 hours.
Viewing my time with MSI from afar, I've realized I only glimpsed a fraction of the decisions that go into every laptop design. From the shape of the hinges, to the port placement, to the fan speeds. There's thinking that goes into every step of a laptop, and nothing is ever done with just the simple wave of a hand. That's given me a new appreciation of laptops, even after covering them for more than 25 years. I want to thank MSI for allowing us such great access to the teams and to the labs that make all of this happen. We're hoping to do more product profiles like this again in the future, so be sure to subscribe here on PC World.